If you like these recordings, please like, subscribe and press the notification bell. Writing a comment would also help to boost the channel. Thank you. The Necklace. In French it's called La Parure. A short story by Guy de Maupassant, simply read by Lynn Kempton. She was one of those pretty, charming girls born as if by an error of destiny into a family of employees. She had no dowry, no hope, no means of becoming known, understood, loved, married to a rich and distinguished man, and she permitted herself to become married to a small civil servant from the Ministry of Public Education. She was simply turned out, being unable to adorn herself, but unhappy as someone demoted. For women have no caste or race, their beauty, grace and charm serving as their birth rank and their family. Their native finesse, their instinct for elegance, their flexibility of spirit are their only hierarchy, and make these girls of the people the equals of ladies of the highest rank. She suffered unceasingly, feeling that she was born to experience every delicacy and every luxury. She suffered from the poverty of her lodgings, from the poverty of the walls, from the way the seats in her home were worn down, from the ugliness of the materials. Everything, which another woman of her class would have failed even to notice, tortured her and made her indignant. The sight of the little Breton woman who humbly did her housework aroused in her sad regrets and lost dreams. She dreamed of mute antechambers stuffed with oriental wall coverings lit by high bronze torches, and of two tall valets in short breeches who sleep in the wide armchairs, drowsy with the heat, heavy from the air heater. She dreamed of great salons adorned with ancient silk, of fine furniture, carrying trinkets of inestimable value, of small elegant salons, perfumed, made for 5-hour-long conversations with the most intimate friends, men well known and sought after, whose attention every woman longs for and desires. When she sat down for dinner in front of the round table covered with a cloth 3 days old, opposite her husband, who discovered his soup dish by declaring, in an unchanged voice, "Ah, such a good stew, I know of nothing better than that," she dreamed of fine dinners, of shining silverware, of tapestries peopling the walls with historic personages, of strange birds in the middle of a fairy tale forest. She dreamed of exquisite dishes served in marvellous crockery, of gallantry whispered and listened to with a sphinx-like smile, all the while eating the pink flesh of a trout or the wings of a grouse. She had no toiletry, no jewels, nothing, and she loved nothing but that. She felt she was made for that. She so wished to please, to be envied, to be seductive and desired. She had a rich friend, a comrade from the convent, whom she no longer wished to go and see. So much suffering she experienced on her return, and she cried for entire days from sorrow, from regret, from despair, and from distress. Now one evening her husband returned home with a triumphant air about him, holding in his hand a large envelope. "Hold on," he said, "here is something for you." She tore open the paper enthusiastically and took out a printed card which carried these words: "The Minister of Public Education and Madame Georges Ramponneau beg Monsieur and Madame Loisel to do them the honour of coming to spend the evening at the Minister's home on Monday the 18th of January. Instead of being delighted, as her husband hoped, she threw the invitation onto the table with bitterness, murmuring, "What do you want me to do with that?" "But, my darling, I thought that you would be happy. You never go out, and it is an occasion, that one, a beautiful occasion. I had enormous difficulty obtaining it. Everybody wants one. It is very sought after, and they don't give many to the employees. You will see there all the important people." She looked at him with irritation and declared impatiently, "What do you expect me to put on my back to go there?" He had not thought about it. He stammered, "But the dress in which you go to the theatre. I think it seems very smart." He was quiet, stupefied, lost on seeing that his wife was crying. 2 large tears descended slowly from the corners of her eyes towards the corners of her mouth. He stuttered, "What's the matter with you? What's the matter with you?" But with an enormous effort she had overcome her pain, and she replied in a calm voice, wiping her damp cheeks, "Nothing. It's just that I don't have any outfit, and consequently I cannot go to the party. Give your card to some colleague whose wife will be better turned out than me." He was devastated. He continued, "Look, Matilda, how much would it cost for you to have a suitable outfit which could be used again on other occasions? Something very simple." She thought a few seconds, working out the arithmetic and dreaming also of the sum which she could ask without attracting an immediate refusal and a frightened exclamation from the parsimonious civil servant. Finally she replied hesitatingly, "I don't know exactly, but it seems to me that 400 francs I could manage." He had gone a little pale, for he was keeping aside precisely this sum to buy a gun and offer himself some hunting expeditions the following summer in the plain of Nanterre with a few friends who were going to shoot doves there on a Sunday. However, he said, "So be it. I give you 400 francs, but try to find a beautiful dress." The day of the party approached, and Madame Loisel seemed sad, worried, anxious. However, her outfit was ready. Her husband said to her one evening, "What's the matter with you? Let's see, you have been very peculiar for the last 3 days." And she replied, "I am fed up with not having any jewellery, no stone, nothing to put on myself. I will look as poor as anything. I would almost prefer not to go to that evening do." He continued, "You can put on natural flowers. It is very chic this season. For 10 francs you will have 2 or 3 magnificent roses." She wasn't at all convinced. No, there is nothing more humiliating than to look poor in the midst of rich women. But her husband exclaimed, "How stupid you are! Go and find your friend, Madame Forestier, and ask her to lend you some jewels. You are friendly enough with her to do that." She cried out with joy, "It's true. I had not once thought of it." The next day she went to her friend's home and recounted her distress. Madame Forestier went towards her glass cabinet, took out a large box, brought it, opened it, and said to Madame Loisel, "Choose, my friend." She saw at first bracelets, then a pearl necklace, then a Venetian cross and stones, admirably worked. She tried on jewellery in front of the mirror, hesitated, could not decide to let go of them, to give them back. She still asked, "Do you have nothing else?" "But yes, look, I don't know what can please you." Suddenly she discovered in a black satin box a superb river of diamonds, and her heart began to beat with an unrestrained desire. Her hands trembled as she took hold of it. She attached it around her throat onto the prop of her dress and stood in ecstasy in front of her reflection. Then she asked hesitantly, full of anguish, "Can you lend me that? Nothing other than that?" "But yes, certainly." She threw her arms around her friend's neck, kissed her enthusiastically, then fled with her treasure. The day of the party arrived. Madame Loisel was a great success. She was the prettiest of all the women, elegant, graceful, smiling, and mad with joy. All the men looked at her, asked her name, tried to be presented to her. All the attachés in the office wanted to waltz with her. The minister noticed her. She danced with dizzying joy, with enthusiasm, drunk with pleasure, not thinking of anything, in the triumph of her beauty, in the glory of her success, in a kind of cloud of happiness made up of all the compliments, of all the admiration, all the desire aroused. Of this victory so complete and so satisfying to a woman's heart. She left around 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband since midnight had been sleeping in a small deserted salon with 3 other men whose wives were enjoying themselves enormously. He threw over her shoulders the clothes which he had brought for the outing, modest clothes from ordinary life, whose poverty shouted at the elegance of her ball turnout. She felt it and wanted to flee in order to avoid being noticed by the other women who were enveloping themselves in rich furs. Loisel held her back. "Wait now, you are going to catch cold outside. I am going to call a cab." But she did not listen to him at all and rapidly descended the staircase. When they were in the street, they did not find a car, and they began to search for one, shouting after coachmen whom they saw passing in the distance. They descended towards the Seine, desperate, shivering. Finally, they found on the platform one of those old nocturnal carriages which one does not see in Paris until night comes, as if they had been ashamed of their poverty during daylight. He took them back to their door in the Road of the Martyrs, and they climbed sadly up to their home. It was finished for her, and he thought of the fact that he would have to be at the ministry at 10 o'clock. She took off her clothes, which she had put around her shoulders in front of the mirror, in order to see herself once more in all her glory. But suddenly she cried out. She no longer had her river of diamonds around her neck. Her husband, half-dressed already, asked, "What's the matter with you?" She turned towards him in despair. I no longer have the river of diamonds from Madame Forestier." He stood up, distraught. "What? How? It's not possible." And they searched in the folds of her dress, in the folds of the coats, in the pockets, everywhere. They did not find it at all. He asked, "Are you sure that you still had it when you left the ball?" "Yes, I touched it in the vestibule of the ministry." "But if you had lost it in the street, we would have heard it fall. It must be in the cab." "Yes, that's likely. Did you take the number?" "No." "And you did not look at it?" "No." They looked at each other, devastated. Finally, Loisel got dressed again. "I am going," he said, "to retrace the entire journey that we made on foot, to see if I can find it again." And he left. She remained dressed in evening attire, with no strength to go to bed, sitting dejectedly in a chair, with no fire, no thought in her head. Her husband returned around 7 o'clock. He had found nothing. He went to the police headquarters, to the newspapers, to promise a reward, to the small vehicle companies, finally everywhere that a suspicion of hope pushed him. She waited every day in the same state of horror, faced with this awful disaster. Loisel came back in the evening with his face crushed, pale. He had found nothing. "You must," he said, "write to your friend to say that you broke the clasp of her river of diamonds and that you are going to get it repaired. That will give us the time to turn things around." She wrote as he dictated. After a week they had lost all hope, and Loisel, aged by 5 years, declared, "We must think about replacing this item of jewellery." They took, the next day, the box which had held it and went to the jeweller's whose name could be found inside. He consulted his books. "It is not I, madame, who sold this necklace. I had only to provide the case." So they went from jeweller to jeweller in search of a necklace the same as the other one, searching their memory, both ill from sorrow and worry. They found, in a boutique in the Palais Royal, a string of diamonds which seemed to them to be exactly the same as the one they were looking for. It was worth 40,000 francs. He would sell it to them for 36,000. They begged the jeweller, therefore, not to sell it for 3 days, and they established that he would take it back for 34,000 francs if the original was found before the end of February. Loisel was in possession of 18,000 francs which his father had left him. He would borrow the rest. He borrowed, asking 1,000 francs from one man, 500 from another, 5 louis here, 3 louis there. He made payment promises, took on ruinous debts, did business with usurers and every type of lender. He compromised the entire end of his existence, risked putting his signature to business without even knowing whether he could honour his debts, and horrified by anguish for the future, by the black poverty which was going to beat him down, by the perspective of all the physical privation, of all the moral torture, he went in search of the new necklace, depositing 36,000 francs on the merchant's counter. When Madame Loisel carried the necklace back to Madame Forestier, the latter said to her in a peeved voice, "You ought to have brought it back earlier, because I might have needed it." She did not open the case, which her friend feared. If she had noticed the substitution, what would she have thought? What would she have said? Would she not have taken her for a thief? Madame Loisel experienced the horrible life of the needy. Moreover, she took on her role suddenly with heroism. It was necessary to pay this dreadful debt. She would pay. She sent the maid away. They changed lodgings. They rented under the eaves in an attic. She experienced heavy housework, odious kitchen chores. She washed the dishes, wearing down her pink nails on greasy pottery and the base of saucepans. She soaped dirty linen, shirts and rags, which she hung up to dry on a rope. She took the rubbish down to the street each day and brought up the water, stopping at each floor in order to catch her breath. And, clothed like a low-born woman, she went to the fruit shop, the grocer's, the butcher's, her basket on her arm, bargaining, throwing out insults, defending sou by sou her miserable money. It was necessary to pay each month the bills, to renew others, to obtain more time. Her husband worked in the day to sort out the accounts of a trader, and in the evening he did copying at 5 sous for each page. And this life lasted 10 years. After 10 years, they had given back everything, with the rate of usury and the accumulation of interest superimposed. Madame Loisel seemed old now. She had become a strong woman, and a hard one, and a crude one, like those from poor households. Her hair unkempt, her skirts in disarray, and her hands red, she spoke loudly, washed the floor with lots of water. And sometimes, When her husband was in the office, she sat near the window and she thought about that evening from the past. She thought of that ball where she had been so beautiful and so admired. What would have happened if she had not lost this jewel? Who knows? Who knows? How singular life is, how changing, how a small thing can cause you to be lost or to save you. Now one Sunday, as she had gone to take a stroll to the Champs-Élysées in order to relax from the week's chores, she noticed suddenly a woman who was taking a child for a walk. It was Madame Forestier, still young, still beautiful, still seductive. Madame Loisel felt moved. Was she going to speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her everything. Why not? She approached. "Hello, Jeanne." The other woman did not recognize her at all and was astonished to be called with such familiarity by this woman from the middle classes. She stammered, "But, madame, I do not know. You must be mistaken." "No, I am Mathilde Loisel." Her friend cried out, "Oh, my poor Mathilde, how you have changed!" "Yes, I have had some hard times since I last saw you, and lots of poverty, and all that because of you." "Of me? How so?" "You remember that river of diamonds which you lent me to go to the party at the ministry?" "Yes, and?" "Well, I lost it." "How could that be, since you brought it back to me?" "I brought you back another one exactly the same, and for 10 years we have been paying for it. You understand that it was not easy for us who had nothing. At last it is over, and I am incredibly happy." Madame Forestier had stopped walking. "You say that you bought a river of diamonds to replace mine?" "Yes, you did not notice, did you? They were exactly the same." And she smiled with a proud but naive joy. Madame Forestier, very moved, took hold of both her hands. "Oh, my poor Mathilde, but mine was false. It was worth at the most 500 francs.